actually chosen a speaker. This particular individual next to me is when I first came here to South Florida about 3 years ago. I went into a meeting and saw this particular man and was intimidated because of, you know, he has that thing like, "Arr," you know, yeah. I mean, because, you know, I wasn't from here, so I didn't know what to expect.
No, not me.
But when you get to know this individual, he has such a heart of just gullible. He's just soft and he's just really nice. He's really, really, truly accepting. Once you get to know him, some of the, I hope I can expose this, but some of the work that you all see on the NA Flyers with Gold Coast, this is the person that actually does the designs. He's an amazing designer for people who are actually starting their jobs or starting their careers or starting their entrepreneurship. But Kiko's absolutely amazing. Give him this respect that you owe if you came up here. And without further ado, let me just welcome Kiko.
My name is Kiko. I'm an addict in recovery. This meeting's actually the first meeting I ever walked into in 2010. You hear those? Yeah, those are the people that birthed me and that raised me, right? Those are my predecessors. Clubhouse, what do you call it? 4th Avenue, where I tried to duke it out with fucking Johnny and shit. Yeah, with like 2 months clean and shit. Yeah. All over a stupid ass spades game, right? And he wasn't even playing. So, yeah. That's funny that he said what he said, you know, about the armor because, like, I'm going to read some literature. I feel comfortable. It helps me when I read literature. When I first got here, I had a sponsor. And he said, if you can find yourself in the literature, you'll fall in love with the literature. Right, and I did, you know, I see myself all throughout all the literature and stuff, and so this particular guy, he gave me the self-acceptance pamphlet as an assignment. In fact, I still have that particular pamphlet. It's 12 years old. It sits in my living clean on page 85. What do you call it? So, with what he said, you know, I'm going to read just a little section out of this and then one tiny paragraph out of the 6th step in the basic text, right? And both of these, and then I'll speak about them and stuff. So it says hold on. Where is it? Okay, there it is. All right. Many of the problems we experience in ongoing recovery stem from the inability to accept ourselves on a deep level. We may not even realize that this discomfort is the source of our problems because it often manifests itself in other ways. We may find ourselves becoming irritable, judgmental, discontent, depressed, or confused. We may find ourselves trying to change our environmental factors in an attempt to satisfy the inner gnawing we feel. In situations such as these, our experience shows that it is best to look inward for the source of our discontent. Very often, we discover that we are harsh critics of ourselves, wallowing in self-loathing and self-rejection. Right? That's me. What do you call it? When I read this, I read it once a day for 5 days, and he told me to underline or highlight. And so it's all highlighted and underlined and stuff like that. And he said, you know, this assignment is not for you to share with me. This assignment is for you to do for yourself. And so on the 5th day, when you're reading it, go over and you go to like a spot where it's highlighted or underlined. I want you to have a conversation with yourself and ask yourself, why do you identify with that? Right? And I did that. And this was like a father to a son or a big brother to a little brother. This pamphlet basically told me, pump your brakes, take a breath. I'm going to tell you why you are the way you are, right? And it explains so much about who I am and how much I hate myself and how discontent I am with the person that I am, right? I got 14 years clean and I still struggle with that, right? It is something that has not gone away. It has gotten better. I've gotten better at dealing with it, right? But like it says in the 6th step, This is the sixth step in the basic text on page 34. Do we really want to get rid of our resentment, our anger, our fear? Many of us cling to our fears, doubts, self-loathing, and hatred because there's a certain distorted security in familiar pain. It seems safer to embrace what we know than to let go of for the unknown. You know, I've always been taught this, and I believe this, that this is a disease that is rooted in self-centered fear, right? And I definitely have that. You know, it's something that I struggle with. No, I don't want to let go of some of my shit. No, I don't want to let go of my armor, right? Because it keeps all of you the fuck away from me, right? Because the inner teenager, the little 14-year-old that's got all these scars and traumas and all that shit, he's fucking terrified of everybody, right? And I still am in the process of learning how to parent him, right? I do outside professional help, like this literature suggests. If you don't know where that literature is, it's called In Times of Illness. It's a little booklet. Sometimes you see them at meetings, sometimes you don't. It's kind of rare. I've got a couple copies at home because I know they're really rare and stuff. So people that really need them and stuff, I tend to give them out, right? So when I see them, I grab them. They tend to be free at meetings. Most meetings give them out. You can get them on NA website if you want. I think all the literature except for the books are free, so you can get it all in PDF, right? But yeah, I struggle with, letting go, because like, if I let go of all of the shit that I still hold on to, like, who am I gonna be? Look, I left home at 15 and I moved back home to Brazil, and within 6 months I was a street kid. And up until that time, I had been living in a fucking bubble. I'm the baby out of 5 kids, and I was the last one to leave the nest, right? And the situation is, like, when I got to the streets, it was a rude awakening. A really rude awakening. I'm the type of person that I've always been afraid of getting into fights. Even as a kid and shit. And unless it was like an older kid, I didn't have a problem. But like people my size, my age, younger than me and stuff like that, like I didn't really want to get into fights. And I thought it was because I didn't want to get my ass kicked. The reality is I'm fucking terrified of what I will do to somebody, right? Because I don't want to end up in prison for the rest of my life. I don't want to have to live with knowing that I put somebody in a hospital, or I cause some irreversible damage to somebody. Like, that will kill me over a lifetime than, anything else. So I still hold shit that I've done in the past, and I still beat myself up over it, and it's long gone, and I've been forgiven by the person. I struggle with forgiving myself. That's got to be the hardest thing, This is a program of spiritual principles, right? This is a program, if you think it's about the writing on the wall, it's not. This is about trying to live a certain way, right? And it took me a lot of years to understand that. It took me a lot of years to truly get to a point where I understood that this was about living this shit. Because I can remember coming to the 530 group at the other place down the street. Mm-hmm. I remember looking at those. I remember one particular day, and I used to sit in the very last seat, and I still kind of struggle with people sitting behind me and shit. And I remember looking over at it, and I don't remember who was sharing what day it was, but I remember looking at it and go, how in the fuck is this shit going to change my life? There's a bunch of fucking words on the wall, bro. And I didn't understand that this was a process, and it's a process, man. I went through the process of like walking around with a basic text and shit, using it as a weapon and shit, fucking spitting literature at you to make you feel less than so I could feel better about myself. Like, I went through all of that shit, and like when none of that shit worked and it caused even more pain inside, like I got to a point where I slowly started to understand, like, this is about, like, when it says in the reading, why are we here? Says it at the end. After coming to NA, we realized we were sick people. We suffer from a disease from which there is no known cure. It can, however, be arrested at some point, and recovery is impossible. So look at it and I say, what can be arrested? And it's not the disease, it's the defects that show the disease for what it is. So if I learn to practice principles, for example, if I learn to stop lying and be honest and shit, then I can't be dishonest anymore. I just arrested, or practicing the principle just arrested the defect, right? So it takes time. It took me time to learn how to like really like start to live this thing. And I, you know, because I want shit to look good outside, bro. You know, I could spit shit. I used to like quote literature like it was nothing. These days, like, yeah, I might remember something's here, something's there, but I kind of got away from the literature and stuff, right? And I'm just now slowly starting to get back to it. But it took me some time to truly understand that it's not about the words, it's about the actions, right? And that I need to learn that, you know, the outside doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how fat I am. It doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter how poor I am. None of that shit fucking matters, right? And that I need to learn to be okay with me. Fuck what you think about me. Like, if I'm not okay, then you're never gonna be okay with me. Because I'm always gonna project and think that you guys, and I think this all the time, everybody fucking hates me. That's what my head tells me. Everybody hates me. Even Mo. And me and Mo been cool for years. Right? It does. It tells me shit. You know, even with people that I know. I say something, bro. I say something. Let's say like here. I say something during my share, during my speaking, whatever. And fucking I look at Tammy and Tammy has a certain look on her. Bro, I fucking will take that shit and think, God damn it, dude, I said something fucked up. I said something wrong. I said something. Bro, me and Tammy have known each other for fucking 14 years. She was here when I got here. She's one of my predecessors. You know what I'm saying? So like shit like that. And I need to learn to work on myself because she's not going to solve that problem. I have to solve that problem. I have to figure out where the root of that problem is through the step work with a sponsor and maybe the outside professional, and figure out like what the root of the problem is and how do I solve this shit? What principle do I practice? You know, it's self-care, self-love, right? Which are the things that I struggle with the most. You know, there's a line in The Living Clean on page 254. Look at me quoting literature and shit. It says, and I'm not gonna destroy the fucking literature. That's one thing I respect more than anything. So it's in the love chapter. And I remember, I'll close it out with this, right? I remember posting online, because like page 85, I so identified with it when I read this book. It came out like I think 6 years ago or something like that. And I remember I stayed away from it, and because like I struggle with reading. And I was like, nah, fuck this shit, and blah, blah. And I heard some other people go like, yeah, it's new literature. Fucking world's trying to make money and shit. Fuck them. And I kind of like jumped on the dumbass bandwagon, right? Because I wanted to be like everybody else and shit. And then I started reading, and I'm not the type of person, I don't read cover to cover. I read, you know, somebody shares about something, I find that chapter and I read it. So somebody must have shared about this, because I read this and I was just like blown away. It says, a relationship with, it's called a relationship, it's on page 85, it's called a relationship with our bodies is just that, a relationship. It can be healthy and rewarding or abusive and destructive. Mostly, it's somewhere in between. We live and grow, get better and worse, and find that the process is rarely a straight line in one direction. Like any relationship, it requires communication and responsibility. Paying attention to our bodies gives them what they need, caring for them and seeking help when necessary. For most of us, this does not come naturally. A member shared, I need to treat my body like something other than an enemy. Very few of us come to NA with education or experience in what is good for us, even if we know better. Living through active addiction means we spent long periods of time abusing and neglecting our bodies. And like in my book, I have a little thing underneath and it says, you know, I traded body parts for my addiction. And if you don't know me and don't know my story, like my nicotine abuse took my fingers, my toes, and my leg, right, over a period of 18 years. And I literally just self-destructed and didn't give a shit because the addiction to the nicotine and the drugs were more important than anything else. Because like, if I could fucking keep getting these wounds and shit, and like my fingers looked all fucked up and shit, and it, You know, I could go to the doctor and tell her, look, man, it's hurting and what you're giving me is not enough. Can you add another pill? And then 2 months later, do the same thing. And 2 months later, bro, at one point, I was getting 967 roxycodones a month. That's 16 fucking pills a day. Who the fuck needs that? Not even somebody struggling with cancer, right? So what do you call it? Naturally, I started selling what I wasn't using and got caught up in that lifestyle. And so, yeah. So anyways, going back to the whole, like, letting go of fears and all that other shit, like, yeah, I don't want to let go of that shit because I'm scared. I'm scared that, and it's not about, I say it's about a newcomer coming in and trying me, and then me having to, like, bitch out or act like a pussy or get soft and shit, right? The reality is I struggle with controlling my emotions, right? And I don't want to lose my shit. So what's the best way for me to do that? Keep you out of arm's distance, right? Keep you guys just on the surface, right? And I only allow people in that prove to me that they're really fucking reading this literature, that they're doing the work and all that other shit, because I'm scared, I'm terrified of the fucking disease and how cunning, baffling, insidious, conniving, deceitful that the fucking disease is. And when people come up to me, my street mentality tells me, watch out, be careful, let them prove themselves first, right? I'm a little bit better at it now than when I came in here, but it's still there. It's definitely still there, right? And so it's a daily practice for me. You know, I'm trying to get better today than I was yesterday, and tomorrow hopefully I'm a little bit better than today, right? So thank you.
Thank you.